Hello and welcome to the live stream. I'm Maria Surdukan. I'm an illustrator and comics book author, and I shall be attempting to do these live streams as regularly as possible. The schedule for now is every Tuesday at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So let's see how this goes. What I'm doing for the moment is working on the Timemongers project, which is an illustration / comics project I'm doing for a residency in the frame of the Helen M. Salzberg 2023 residency at the Jaffe Center for Book Arts in Florida. This is the second video in the series, and I'm attempting to build an archive of the process with the goal of having as much fun as possible. And the whole project is based on 3 Romanian fairy tales that deal with time manipulation. And the one I'm working on right now is this one, and it sort of looks like this. I'm assembling everything in InDesign and working in Photoshop, and this one is the fairy tale about the Crossroads. It's a motif that comes across in many fairy tales, and it's never the title, but since this is the element I'm focusing on, I'm calling it the Crossroad fairy tale. And the goal was to have it resemble some kind of computer game in which you are the player and you reach the crossroad and you get to decide between 3 options: love, wealth, and death. The different versions of the fairy tale include different versions of choices, but usually one of them is death. So it's either love, wealth, or marriage. And I think the earliest version of this motif I found was in ancient Greece, where a hero reaches a crossroad and has to choose between virtue and vice. Anyway, I find the 3 choices quite interesting because the logical thing is not to choose death, and the fairy tale implies that death is the right choice. Anyway, in the, let's call it a picture book, but it's actually a booklet because it only has 16 pages. The hero first chooses love, and this is the illustration I'm going to be working on today. Then he chooses love, he dies. Then he respawns at the crossroad, he chooses riches, he dies, respawns at the crossroad, chooses death, survives, and then goes back and tries to complete all the other levels. And then he dies. This is yet unfinished. And another thing I wanted to show you is that this map, I want it to be a foldable map, and it looks something like this, with the 3 pieces sort of folding on top of the main illustration. Not yet sure how I'm going to do this technically. We shall see. No, I don't want to save it. So, this is what I'm going to be working on today. And I'll explain my reasoning and the choices I'm trying to make. So here we go. And let's see how this works. I am working at 150 dpi because, unlike all my other projects, I'm trying to get a pixelated look. So there we go. And there's a reason, there's two reasons for this choice. Obviously, I'm going for the ancient game aesthetic, but also I'm trying to get an image that's not overly polished. So that would be the goal. Also, I think I mentioned last time that I am trying to get these images prepared for printing, and I live under the assumption that eventually this is going to be a reso print. So I will attempt to do a 2-color illustration. Okay, so this is my pixelated line, and it's going to be blue eventually, but I find it a lot easier if I work with black and then adjust the layers. So this is the plan. And the images, I did mention the fact that I'm trying to make it look as a game, but to be honest, obviously the inspiration is both old Romanian illuminated manuscripts and old glass icons, which I really like because they were relatively cheap to produce, and they sort of tended to lose all the details in through successive reproductions. So unlike icons that were painted on wood, which tend to be recognizably Byzantine in style and with a lot of details and kind of polished, glass icons tend to be a lot more naive, let's say, in the presentation. So I'm sort of drawing inspiration from there. So when I chose to work on a low resolution, I sort of wanted to keep that unpolished feeling and sort of make away with the choice of having a lot of details in the illustrations. So here we are. I think her hair shouldn't be tied up. I should save that for the end, and she should probably be wearing her hair long. So here we go. Ideally, I should be making all the choices before I start inking, but that's just an ideal and not always reality. Okay. Here we go. And there is a logic to all the adventures the hero goes through. The goal isn't to overly explain the fairy tale, but he's obviously doing something wrong if all his choices result in death. So, at least in my head, I felt like there should be an explanation for why neither marriage nor riches work out for him. And also, I think another source of inspiration, which was crucial for the background design with the weird buildings. They are obviously inspired by illuminated manuscripts, but that wasn't the original source of inspiration for me, but rather a Romanian illustrator I used to love when I was little, I still do, who's called Val Munteanu, and he found inspiration in old both manuscripts and church paintings, frescoes. I think my love for that medium might have started there. Because the buildings are really weird, they don't really make sense perspective-wise, but they're really fun. And of course, I spent a good part of the 90s playing computer games and being mesmerized by pixelated backgrounds. So it's a perfect combination of both. The thing I like about this crappy resolution is that it's a lot more forgiving, and it saves me from perfectionism. But I still tend to redraw lines and all. So here we go. I was talking about sources of inspiration, and it's these. This is what I have in mind when I talk about glass icons and stuff like this. I don't know exactly how they were originally painted, but when I was little, we used to do them. And first you would trace the drawing with black ink, and then you would paint with oil colors on top. Starting from the lightest color, starting with the whites, and going from there. And it was really interesting because you never knew what you were doing unless you turned the glass around. So yeah, that was fun. This one I think is more modern because the writing is in Romanian with Latin characters. Normally it was medieval Bulgarian with Cyrillic characters, and the characters were kept even when the text was in Romanian. So yeah, but I thought it was really fun because it looks like a comic. So anyway, these are the sources of inspiration. And this is sort of what I have in mind while doing the drawings, even if mine are still a bit too polished for my liking. But that's that. I'm not sure about her hair. We'll see. And I'm trying to have background music. I'm not sure I'm successful. Am I successful? Do I have background music? It was suggested last time, and I tried, but I'm not sure I succeeded because I hear it, but I'm not sure if it works on the stream. A lot of uncertainty. And I will eventually have to talk a bit more about the project. Yeah, so I don't really have music, do I? How about now? Well, if it doesn't work this time, it will work next time. Okay, we don't like fuzzy music, so let's not have music this time. Yeah, well, we'll see. Theoretically, you can have both microphone and desktop sound, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll troubleshoot it more. The thing is, I can't really focus with music, so it's a work in progress. Yeah, as I said, I should probably talk a bit more about the project. And I should probably do a live stream specifically on the project, on how it started, and what was the original intention and how it evolved, because it evolved a lot from the original plan. Okay. On to the weird building. I spent a lot of time trying to find the right shape for this building, because originally the plan was to have them in some sort of palace, but it's one thing to visually plan things in your head and a different thing to try to make like a coherent series of illustrations. And I decided rather late in the project to add the picture books, because so far the project is made of a concert, pack of cards, which is a tarot-like deck, and a book, an object book, which should be sort of both interactive and three-dimensional. But I found myself explaining the inspiration sources over and over again. And then I realized it would be great fun to make some picture books, which is what I'm doing right now. And the original plan, I imagined the illustration something like this. And it was supposed to be part of the map, and there should have been like a road leading to the castle or fortress they're in, and then another road which takes him to his unavoidable death. But then I figured there's a lot of flowers. There's a bit too many flowers, and I was drawing the Richie's illustration, and I saw that getting him on top of a tower would symbolize the idea of both being very rich and very powerful better, so that changed the whole concept for the lovers and for his fight with death. So weird building for everybody. And that's why we're here. Yep. Another sort of self-imposed rule with this project was that I wasn't going to linger for a very long time on the illustrations. These have all been done in a week. And this means I don't get a lot of time to question my choices. And I don't get to do a lot of versions. It's debatable whether this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm trying to be efficient. And eventually, if everything goes according to plan, the books are going to be part of an exhibition in Bucharest at the beginning of November. So they should be done by the beginning of October if I want to print them. And I started writing emails last week in an attempt to find a Reso studio relatively close to me. As far as I can tell, for now, the closest are either in Budapest or Bucharest. And it's August, so August in Europe means everybody is on holiday. And therefore, no one answered. Yet. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I thought the building was a lot more interesting than the flowers, and also it captured a feeling of infinite and explorable space I used to have when I was playing computer games. I think I'm thinking about Prince of Persia. Which was a pixelated game, because I only played like the first version and I didn't get very far because he kept dying. Perspective doesn't make any sense. That's by design. It should like pretend to make sense, but not really, not if you look closely. Yeah, there were a lot of computer games which, looking back, were quite influential on me as an artist, I guess. And I tried playing some of them again. I found Day of the Tentacle, for example, remastered. But it's not the same thing, and I read somewhere that's because computers nowadays use a different kind of, I'm not even sure how to phrase it, technology for representing an image on a screen. So you don't get the same effect you used to get when looking at pixels in the 90s. But yeah, spent a lot of time playing LucasArts games, especially Monkey Island. And I recently discovered the artist was Mark Ferrari. And I found his portfolio, and he's an amazing, amazing artist. It's a kind of magic. I'm not sure how much of it is nostalgia and how much of it is intrinsic to the illustrations, but anyway, pixel art gives me a feeling no other kind of art can reproduce, and I wanted to do this in pixel art, and then I remembered that's actually a lot of work, and I'm trying to be fast. But still, one day maybe. Wondering about the level of details. And how this looks. Why do I have weird... Okay. Well, it doesn't look bad. The interesting thing about drawings which don't have realism as a goal is the fact that they try to explain reality but using symbols. I'm thinking about the specific sources of inspiration for these kind of buildings, and they are mostly illuminated manuscripts. I mean, the characters come from glass icons, but the buildings are definitely Byzantine illuminated manuscripts, where they aren't really drawing buildings, they're drawing the idea of a building, and they're sort of trying to... It's something between drawing and writing. The goal is to sort of tell you that there's a building there. And sometimes they even add curtains, which I thought was hilarious. But yeah, it's not something you see in Renaissance paintings, for example, which are trying to be almost photographic. These tend to be something between language and art, which is interesting. I think the roof isn't silly enough. It's very hard to explain. I'm trying not to be overly decorative. I'm trying not to be overly pretty with the drawings, and it's harder than it looks. Interesting experience, what can I say? And I looked at the way in which roof tiles are represented, but I'm not trying to copy the sources of inspiration. I'm trying to get a feel for them and then see how I can translate that into my own way of doing things, I guess. And while I am drawing for fun, I'm aware of the fact that this is part of a series and there should be some coherence in it. That's why the flowers from the original sketch had to go, because they really didn't make much sense. They were just there to be pretty and fill up the space. Very oriental horror vacui thing. And I'm going to use them at the end, in the final game over illustration. But that's supposed to be like the reward at the end of the book, game, journey, adventure. So I got rid of them in this illustration. I'm so not happy with her hair, I don't know why. Every time at the beginning of the live stream, I think to myself, oh, this is going quite slowly. How am I going to fill a whole hour? And then I blink and half an hour is already gone. I am a bit annoyed I didn't manage to get the music to work. But oh well. I will try again. Now let's see what it looks like on the page. If I put a pointy headdress on her head, I'm going to lose the symmetry of the composition. Maybe her hair should be like free-flowing, just like his, maybe. I'm not sure. So we are here. Okay. Should relink it. Here we go. Doesn't look bad. Do I not like her hair because it looks weird, or do I not like her hair because I got used to the other hairstyle I did in the sketch? Not sure. Okay, let's finish the building and then I can angst about the hair later. And over here we have a skull. My headcanon was that the reason why he keeps dying is that he approaches both relationship and let's say success, because that's what being rich is about, in the wrong way. And I'm not sure if that sort of doesn't get lost in the illustrations, but he's a character who has a sword. And he starts with a sword, and basically his whole approach to everything is attack. Or at least be incredibly suspicious and have the sword ready. And he goes through life like that and keeps dying and respawning at the crossroad. And then he fights death. And I don't think even in the original story, him choosing death isn't really him choosing to die. It's more like him choosing to face his fears, I suppose. And then he ends not needing the sword anymore. And he's sort of free to live his life and make choices without the constant presence of fear. And then he dies. I mean, he's going to die eventually anyway. This isn't the story in which he finds immortality. That's the next picture book. But in fairy tales, even if you find immortality, you don't really get to cling to it. I did a class on fairy tales with Laura Gigailiescu at Fundația Calea Victoriei, and the prevalent theory was that fairy tales are sort of magical incantations meant to restore the order of the world. So even if the character manages to find immortality, that means the natural order of things has been disrupted, and the happy end will be things going back to normal. I think we'll get to talk more about that next time, because the next fairy tale I have to do is Youth Without Old Age and Life Without Death. And I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to adapt that. Okay, let's see if I can find a hairstyle I like. Adorable hairstyles, adorable. This is also very nice. I'm using this as a source of inspiration for the last illustration. And what I like about this is you can obviously see they're wearing modern clothes, which doesn't usually happen. But not a lot of hairstyles. Maybe she should have 2 tassels, maybe. Let's see. So what if it goes something like this? Slightly better. Probably slightly better. I might change my mind later. Okay. Do I have everything? Can I go to color? I think so. Okay. So for the colors, I imported the swatches from a proper Rizzo studio, which means, at least in theory, I am working with the right colors. They should combine on the screen quite closely to what's going to happen in real life. But we'll see. And he has a weird pattern on his trousers. which sort of points him out as the main character. Again, I kind of did minimal character design on these. I mentioned it last time, because I really didn't want to spend a lot of time. They're just very quick retelling of fairy tales. Okay. And now the red. I think there was a rule on how I color it. Yeah. Okay. I am going to work with only 2 colors, unlike the first picture book where I used 3 colors. This is going to be only blue and magenta. But visually they combine and they sort of give me 3 colors. Wouldn't call it black because it's not black, but it's the closest to a dark color I'm ever going to get. And layer with multiply, pick the magenta, start drawing. It's going to be this. This is the darkest color I can have on the page. And his coat is going to be magenta. And some other small details. Again, main character energy. Yeah, the plan is to have live streams as regularly as possible before other projects get in the way. But yes. So this would be the magenta. It's the kind of illustration I can finish in 1 hour, I think. Or at least go easily over 80% finished. But I started adding shadows for the other illustrations and I really like the feeling, so I am going to work on shadows on this one. This is what the shadows were sort of supposed to look like. And I used to do the shadow with blocks of colors, and then I realized it sort of looks better if I draw the shadow by hand, line by line. Which goes against the efficiency mantra I set for myself at the beginning, but that's life. And then my hand started protesting, because, yeah, of course it did. Okay, maybe some red over here. I can change my mind on the red later on. And there was also some pink on hands and faces. I'm trying to remember whether the pink was a main character thing or not, but let's say not. And here we are. Now the only thing I need to do is the shadows and I'll be done. Shadows. Right, so in the sketch, the shadows were implying there's a light source to the left, and I drew the sun on top, so it's not going to be logical. And that's it. This was like a thing about illustration that you, well, at least illustration that's not trying to be realistic. You are the director, like with a movie, and if you need an extra light source, you can just place an extra light source wherever you need it. I might move the sun to the left though. Because the buildings definitely look more three-dimensional if they have a shadow on them. And if I do the drawings, I mean if I draw the shadow line by line, this means I don't lose so much detail as I would if I go in with a big brush and that's it. This should also have a shadow. I mean, the red I put here has only one goal, and that is to make you look at the skull. Sort of make the skull a focal point. And here we go. Oh, there should be a logic to the shadow on the building. And there should be more shadows here. I'll have to check what I did in the other illustration, because I sort of made some decision about the shadows there, and it would be nice to have them be coherent. And I should probably have a shadow over here. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but I can try. Because I tried in the sketch to put a shadow over the whole left side, and I wasn't very happy with the way it looked, so maybe something like this. A very messy gradient. Okay. Yeah, I'm not unhappy with the way it looks. There probably should be some shadows on him as well. And on her. Doesn't look bad, does it? Yeah, I said I was going to check what I did with the other image, which is this one, which is unfinished, because this also has a story. It used to be like this, and I decided it would probably be more interesting if the building is a bit more interesting and doesn't look like a cake. So yeah, it's unfinished. But I should probably have some black in the windows as well. Okay. Does it look three-dimensional? Does it look like the kind of building you would explore in a computer game? Because if it does, I'm happy. And my mission has been accomplished. Good. So this is it. Yeah, I think it's good. Let's go and update it. Okay. And I should finish the little guy as well. Normally that goes a lot faster. It's not 300, it's 150 dpi. I do plan to enlarge them later to 300, but I want to keep the pixels. I discovered that if I rotate the canvas, for some reason the brush gets thinner. And I'm not sure if it's something I like or something I hate. I'm sure I'll figure the style out by the time I'm finished. That's not very helpful because I want to do every book in a different style. So by the time I get a hang of it, I'll move on to other things. Maybe put a tiny description in some part of the screen for people to know what they're joining. Yeah, that would be a very good idea. I realize there's a lot of things I'm not doing properly, or I could do better. So yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind for next time. Thank you. So yeah, this is a project where I'm illustrating some Romanian fairy tales and attempting to do some very stylized picture books. It's part of a greater project which deals with time manipulation in fairy tales and a bit of wishful thinking of using time manipulation in present day. I should write a description. I will. Next time I will try to have a proper description and maybe music. Music, my nemesis. the secret is, I explained for the people watching the stream, but I'm also explaining things for myself, which is a very weird thing to do, but it helps me not to lose focus of the whole project, I think. But yeah. Okay, main character attributes. I wanted to color the pants like a checkboard, and then I got bored and decided no, that's not a useful use of my time. Okay, main character. Here we go. And this comes on with multiply. And here we go. It's very satisfying not to draw between the lines, because with flats, and I usually color with flats, I have to be very careful with the contour lines and everything. And it's a real pleasure not to have to do this and to sort of play on the accidents and you should be all with multiply, yeah. And see where that goes. Okay. He's done. And here we go. I think this is pretty much it. Maybe the building needs a bit more detail, maybe. I'm not sure about that. I'll sort of check how the images work together, but I'm quite pleased. Maybe just some extra lines, so it looks like the building has a bit of texture. Maybe something like this. I'm pretty sure he should have fold on the other side as well. Yeah, I think it's pretty much done. So this was the live stream for today. Thank you very much for joining me, and see you again next week, I guess, when I get to tackle the next picture book, and hopefully this one will be finished. I'll do a presentation of all of them at some point. So yeah, this was it. I hope you had as much fun as I did. And see you next time. Bye!